The Verge dropped some big news. OpenAI plans to release its next big AI model by December. The Orion model is the big kahuna. Keep in mind that the next few releases of these models, specifically by OpenAI, will probably to a great degree determine how hot this market stays, how much hype remains. Because if the progress cools down, especially by, one of the market leaders, OpenAI, some people might think, things are slowing down. However, if we keep seeing improvement in coding, in autonomous research, if it gets the gold medal at the International Mathematics Olympiad, for example, which by the way, Google's model got very close. So they were 1 point away from gold, but that was one of their alpha models, alpha geometry plus alpha proof, I believe. If a large language model can land gold, I think that would be kind of a earth-shattering breakthrough, I would say. I think it would be fair to say. So The Verge continues. The startup's next flagship model, codenamed Orion, is slated to arrive around the 2-year anniversary of ChatGPT. This day really stands out in my memory, so December 3rd, 2022. Now, of course, ChatGPT was released November 30th, 2022, a few days prior, but I remember Elon Musk saying ChatGPT is scary good. We are not far from dangerously strong AI. And I remember thinking to myself, what the heck is ChatGPT? At the time, if you recall, they didn't know it was going to make quite this big splash. ChatGPT was kind of like this tool, this prototype. The GPT sort of architecture, they were around. In fact, before that, I was using a tool that ran on GPT-3 probably or something like that. I remember being pretty impressed by how well it could write. I think it was called Jeeves or Jasper or something like that. And I didn't know at the time it was running on OpenAI's technology. It was very good. But I think for a lot of people, this was kind of like the firing of the starter's pistol, letting them know that the race is on. This was what woke a lot of people up to what was coming potentially. So if this article is true and the Orion model, the big one, is arriving around the 2-year anniversary of ChatGPT, that means it's days away. Now, a lot of the breaking news in the AI field, you've probably noticed, we pay attention to a publication called theinformation.com. They've been pretty unerringly correct in a lot of their leaks and breaking news about OpenAI, about AI in general. I actually would not be shocked if there's somebody out there in the Bay Area that's getting 2 paychecks, one from OpenAI and one from theinformation.com. Just a hunch. We've also seen some great scoops by publications like Bloomberg and Business Insider on, for example, the Q-Star leak back in the days. Now, this is coming from The Verge, but take this with a grain of salt. I'll show you why in just a second. Let's read what they're announcing, but again, there may be skullduggery afoot, if you know what I mean. OpenAI plans to launch Orion, its next frontier model, by December, The Verge has learned. Unlike the release of OpenAI's last 2 models, GPT-4o and o1, Orion won't initially be released widely through ChatGPT. Instead, OpenAI is planning to grant access first to companies it works closely with in order for them to build their own products and features according to a source familiar with the plan. Now, this is interesting because when we first started learning about Orion, and again, keep in mind some of these are leaks, speculations, etc., it seemed like there was one model that was meant to be kind of the model that trains other models. It was the big smart model that would produce the data, the synthetic data, the AI-generated data, that then would go into these smaller models, kind of customized for their own use cases. In my first video about the Orion model, and again, there were multiple kind of code names that they've used, so we weren't sure which one's which, but basically the idea was one of the models was the one that makes the other models, and I kind of illustrated this by talking about, if you've seen Aliens, there's this idea of the alien queen that just sits in its chamber and hatches the alien kind of drones that then go out and do stuff, right? So that model wouldn't be the one that's powering, ChatGPT. It's not the one that's answering your questions. It's not the one that's coding. It's not the one that's doing anything that a regular user would do. Instead, it rapidly creates the data to train the smaller models. We've went over a number of studies that show how that's done, but kind of based on that idea, so this really makes sense to me. So they're saying, unlike the release of, all the other models that are basically powering ChatGPT, and you can select which models you want to use in that scroll down, the little drop down menu in ChatGPT. Here, they're not doing that. This model, it will instead be granted to companies for them to build their own products and features, which again, that could mean their own models. Yet another source is saying that, so Microsoft, right, they're preparing to host Orion on their Azure servers, so the cloud service for a lot of these AI models, as early as November. So the Orion model is seen as sort of the next generation model after GPT-4, right? So it's probably what was referred to initially as GPT-5. But OpenAI, they have their own kind of a naming convention, and they always kind of like flip it around on us. So, I mean, it's probably not going to be called that externally when it rolls out. They'll probably have some other name for it. This story also came out recently. Microsoft prepares for OpenAI's next model as their relationship strains. If the stars align, we should see OpenAI's next Orion AI model by the end of the year. If the stars align, bravo, very well said. You get it. Stars align, Orion. It's fiendishly clever. So, could this all be true? Well, Sam Altman called the story fake news. Sam Altman has been a little bit extra chatty on Twitter/X recently, saying it's not that the future is going to happen so fast, it's that the past happens so slow. My thoughts on the matter are, in one image, this. I had that image lying around, and lo and behold, I got to use it. But Sam Altman did address the claim. So this is Kylie. So this was posted by one of the authors, Kylie Robinson. Kylie has a pet peeve that she wants you to know about. It's Robinson, not Robinson. Did you read it as Robinson? I think every single person that looks at this reads Robinson. Anyway, she posted the article and Community Notes immediately strikes. And shortly after, Sam, the great Sama himself, says, fake news out of control. The comments continue, bruh, you just ruined all our nights. Sam Altman replies, don't worry, plenty of great stuff coming your way. It just offends me how media is willing to print random fantasy. Jimmy Apples replies to Sam, back to the patient's cave until clarifications, I suppose. Sam Altman replies, you and Pikachu. Jimmy replies, actually, that's where the thread ended. By the way, I'm curious, and this is a genuine question. Please answer in the comments if you like. I'm curious, watching AI development unfold, watching interactions like this, what you have here is, you got a journalist, somebody that's writing for the Fortune magazine, Business Insider, The Verge, kind of like the old school legacy media with massive reach, shaping our politics, shaping thoughts and opinions, and just like wielding this massive influence for so long up until, fairly recently, where you might say that the balance has shifted a little bit. So, Kylie Robinson posts an article, right? That post immediately gets, community noted. For those of you that don't use Twitter and are not familiar with community notes, you can think of it as basically if you've ever been to some social gathering and you say something wrong, you get some minor detail wrong, and somebody immediately goes, actually, and then they proceed to explain to you very pedantically why you're wrong with like clear like references and examples of why, and it's just like very clear proof. Have you been there? Have you felt that, or are you more the actually person? But that's what community notes are basically. Then you have, mega billionaire Wunderkind tech genius that, by the way, a lot of people are very divided. We did a post, in this community, like a lot of you simply do not trust Sam Altman. But you have this conversation just breaking down in it between, basically the post author, Legacy Media, the billionaire tech founder / investor that is running this company and you could say has a big effect on this technology coming out into the world. And then a random anonymous troll / leaker who is, probably not Sam Altman's alt account that he uses to leak information that no one has access to at all in the industry. So those are two separate entities. You know what? I'm going to come back to that idea. I'm going down this crazy rabbit hole way too early in this video. But they do note Sam's, fake news comment here and basically what he said in that kind of exchange. Not the cave and the Pikachu bit, the bit about the a lot of other great technology being released. Now, Orion has been teased by an OpenAI executive as potentially up to 100 times more powerful than GPT-4. Now, this might be a little bit misleading because I think what they're referring to is, if you recall that presentation by Microsoft, there was the kind of the idea that, GPT-5 is going to be massive, much bigger than GPT-4. And the reason for that, importantly to point out, is it wasn't that the model was 100 times bigger. That number was sort of like relative to the previous one if you take into account algorithmic improvements. So it's like if you have something powered by one NVIDIA card and then you add another NVIDIA card, then you can say that it's 2x. But if you improve the model efficiency, you say you double the model efficiency, then you can say, well, now it's 4x. So that's what that 100x is referring to. And they're saying the company's goal is to combine its LLM over time to create an even more capable model that could eventually be called Artificial General Intelligence, or AGI. Not sure what they mean by the goal is to combine its LLMs over time. Certainly, we've heard the idea of distributed training. There were rumors that, OpenAI can like sort of train different pieces of it and then combine them. A lot of people were saying that basically the amount of sort of power it would take to run to train some of these models. Like you can't, somebody was saying like you can take it down a state's power grid if you were able to just basically put all the data centers in one place. So combining its LLMs might be referring to that idea that it's some sort of distributed training. Then they continue, as previously reported, that OpenAI was using O1, codenamed Strawberry, right? So that was the big deal that everybody was, including myself, freaking out about because that was Q star. So the idea was that the Strawberry model was to provide synthetic data to train Orion. And they referenced this article by the Information. Now, again, Information I tend to trust. They know people, it seems like. And again, this is why you need to be careful where you kind of get your information from, because you don't want to get this sort of the broken telephone effect. Is that what it's called? Where basically like you get the truth and it's passed down until it just doesn't resemble the truth anymore. So this is the Information. So this is what I would consider a trusted source when we're talking about reporting on AI and more specifically on OpenAI, what's happening in there. So everything that they write here, as far as we can tell, this all checks out and this all lines up with everything that we've been hearing going back to the Q star leak. So Strawberry, right, the model that was previously called Q star. So we're calling that the Strawberry model. So keep that in mind. Q star, Strawberry, same thing. And so how I'm interpreting this, so that what they're saying is like, it's not clear whether Chatbot version of Strawberry that can boost the performance of GPT-4 and ChatGPT will be good enough to launch this year. This was August 27th, 2024, and that's the O1 model. And they're saying the Chatbot version is a smaller, simplified version of the original Strawberry model known as a distillation. So they're saying it seeks to maintain the same level of performance as a bigger model while being easier and less costly to operate. And this bigger version of Strawberry is going to generate data, the synthetic data for Orion. Okay, so here's kind of like the problem here. So this is from the Verge. So the release of OpenAI's last two models, GPT-4o and O1. And then they're saying it was previously reported that OpenAI was using O1, codenamed Strawberry. Here's the problem. I can't even blame them for this because, all right, here's a chart from OpenAI's. I think this was from the O1 system card. So shout out to TP Huang who posted this. I was too lazy to find the original. I have it somewhere. But so this is showing the math performance of these models versus inference costs. So again, remember the big breakthrough with these models, or at least the new thing that's so cool about them, is that up until now, how you improve the model is you would improve it during training. You do training, fine-tuning, etc. So here's, for example, GPT-4o, GPT-4o mini, the previous kind of generation, and we would ask them a question, and we're like, what's the answer? And they got to answer right away. They can't take their time and think about it a little bit. So that's what inference means. Inference means like prediction. This is what these models do. You ask them a question, they predict what the answer would be. And then there's training time compute. So while we're training, that's how much resources we give it, how much compute we give it, versus inference time compute. That's how much resources and time we give it to answer the question, to think about answering the question. So it's like, think about it as like if, let's say you're trying to hire a lawyer and you're like, let me give you a lot of money so you work on this really, really hard for a long time to make sure that the best possible thing happens, right? That's the cost of letting these models work and think, etc. when you ask them the question. And so the previous models, they just have a set sort of like they just answer. And then these O1 models, what makes them unique is we're allowed to give them more time to think, or, the cost, we pay more resources to have them think. And as you can see here with the O1 mini, right? So it improves, like this dotted line shows you how well, as the inference cost increases, so do the results. Where it gets kind of confusing is the thing that we're all been playing with is not the O1. Gasp, right? You don't have to take my word for it. You can go into ChatGPT and see what models you have available to you. You'll notice that the O1 model is nowhere to be seen. We have the O1 preview and the O1 mini. The thing that everybody refers to as O1 is O1 preview. That's this purple thing here. And the O1, that's the unreleased model, the actual unreleased model, the actual Strawberry model, right, that gets the highest score on this AIME, which is like a math Olympiad for the best and brightest, I believe, high schoolers in America. Basically, like high math performance. The O1, we're basically able to really increase its ability to solve those kind of problems by giving it, by paying more in terms of resources, in terms of compute, and allowing it to think and process the stuff more after we ask it the question. It's like, here's the question, think about it, tell me what the answer is in a little bit. So again, this is the information. So this is from the same article. That's from August. So this was before this was released. They're saying the Chatbot version is a smaller, simplified version of the original Strawberry model known as a distillation. So it's a Strawberry light, so to speak, aka O1. Are you confused yet? The reason I mention it is because of how many people get this little detail wrong. Interestingly, even an ex-OpenAI former member of the technical staff at OpenAI, William Saunders, testifying in front of the U.S. Senate committee, so about, some of the potential issues, like talking about the good and the bad, the threats potentially of AGI, et cetera, talking about OpenAI. It's funny because in that sort of testimony, right, he's like, OpenAI announced a new AI system called GPT-01. So again, I'm not sure how significant that is, that everybody gets it wrong. It's a little bit hilarious. And also, why doesn't OpenAI just call things in a way that, makes sense? Now, interestingly, they do post this tweet by Sam Altman from a while ago, from September 13th, 2024, saying, I love being home in the Midwest. The night sky is so beautiful. Excited for the winter constellations to rise soon. They are so great. This was taken by most to mean that Orion is coming in the wintertime. So certainly it would line up with this article. But hopefully this isn't the only sort of thing that they're going on. They're saying they do have a source that knows about this. But again, Sam Altman saying fake news out of control to this specific article, and more specifically saying just offends me how media is willing to print random fantasy. So this is Jimmy Apples back in September talking about the Strawberry release, saying, view Strawberry in context of better models to come. And then the sort of the big boy GPT-5, potentially as early as December, but just, for your sanity, so we don't die from the hype, you probably should think of it as Q1, Q2 of 2025. So let me know what you think about this. Do you think that Kylie Robinson is spreading fake news? Or is it Sam Altman that's wielding the cloak and dagger? Are we going to see the Orion model within ChatGPT, or is that meant for other uses, like for creating other models? Are we going to see it in December? The reason I mentioned some of this stuff feels like we're living in a simulation a little bit. Number one is because it does seem like we're beginning to create intelligence. It's not far-fetched, I think, to say that we could potentially create our own simulation at some point with little ChatGPTs running around convinced that they are the real deal. Two is we realize now what the simulations are for. Because back in the days, we kind of didn't know. We're like, oh, it's for, science experiment or something. Now we're seeing places like NVIDIA and many, many others building simulations because it provides incredible data. Data like, for example, for training robots or for simulating certain social interactions, many other things. So yes, it's science, but so it's specifically we're able to extract data, and data is really important. We're realizing that simulations can be almost seen as like what oil wells used to be in the heyday of oil. Now it's all about data. And three, as this kind of like AI, AGI, is this incredibly powerful and interesting technologies emerging into the world, we also happen to be at kind of the peak of social media and transparency, where people like Sam Altman, right? Because a lot of us follow him for news and events and stuff like that. When a publishing corporation prints something, he's able to respond. He's able to argue, to go back and forth. Other people can jump in and kind of add their own opinions. The point is, it didn't have to be like this. It didn't have to be this entertaining. It didn't have to be this transparent. Just like attention is all you need for AI, for transformers, for the AI architecture to work really well. Same thing here. Attention is needed, or at least very much desired, for us watching the stuff as it unfolds, making decisions by hitting the little heart icons and the hint, the like button down below, please. Much appreciated. When I set up this green screen so I can appear on camera in front of various news articles and Twitter posts, it wasn't working out too well. It had these little grainy, I'm sure you can see it on the camera now, it has this like a grainy effect. It's got the green outline around me. It was a poor quality job done by somebody that doesn't really know how to do it right. That's me. But a lot of you really liked the cool matrix/simulation effect that this provides. Some of you have even asked how to recreate that in your own videos. So now moving forward, I'm going to pretend that this is exactly the effect that I was going for. It was all planned and meticulously crafted. With that said, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate you, and I hope to see you in the next one. My name is Wes Roth, and talk soon.